Hi everyone, I am Sam, the owner of Titanium Archery Products. And in today's video, we're going to talk about installation of the front quick disconnect and the side stabilizer mount. Before we get into that, let's talk about tools. There's a couple items you really should have on hand to make this process work the best way you possibly can. And that would be one is T-handle, Allen key, 1/4 inch. Torque wrench, 1/4 inch drive. It goes up to about 150 inch-pounds. It is capable of measuring torque in both directions. Very useful to have. You'll see why. And then here's a standard 1/4 inch socket wrench. It's also pretty useful, especially if you don't have the torque wrench on hand. And it currently has a 1/4 inch Allen key bit on it. You're also going to need a T30 bit. These are specially hardened steel. Found these for around $6, $7 for 3 of these with their sockets even already assembled online. It's a good deal. I recommend you get those. So let's get to the quick disconnect. When you get it from us, it will have a pin like this inserted inside of the module. And then this screw here, this socket cap screw, titanium alloy, will be in that module. So take that pin out, separate these items from each other, and then take the socket cap screw, drop that into the quick disconnect module. Now, I won't go through the entire tightening process on this because it really isn't necessary to see all of that. But I'll talk about a few things, give you some tips here. So start it with the T-handle. Or if you don't have one of these, you could use a standard Allen key, but this is faster. So go in until you're at the entire end of the threads. And you're going to want to consider that when you do the final tightening, that the quick disconnect may slightly rotate, just a small amount during that final tightening process. So you want to maybe have a few trial runs to see what it does, to see if it orients itself a little differently as you finish that tightening. So on this, I do recommend measuring the torque. It's not necessary, but I found that if you get to a particular number, that it will hold extremely well. And that number is about 140 to 150 inch-pounds. 140 is 11.6 foot-pounds if you want to convert. So we have here the torque wrench already set for 140 inch-pounds. I have the bit on it, the Allen key. I would put that in and I would tighten that down. I don't need to show you that because it is really self-explanatory at this point. So quick disconnect, let's assume that it's installed. Once it's in, you set it, you forget it. Now let's go over to the side stabilizer mount. And this requires a bit more discussion. So we have here, it's 3 modules. You have the riser module, the center or middle module, and then we have the quick disconnect module on the bottom. So this also has its own quick disconnect. And it has the same pin. It uses the same pin that the front one does. So it'll come with that. It'll include the screws. So when you get it, it will be loose. It will not be tightened down. And so I've left it loose so you can see that. What isn't loose, what is already fully tightened down, is the riser module. So again, you're looking at about 140 inch-pounds for that. That is a T30 drive screw. Titanium alloy. These are black, but they are titanium alloy. And that is pretty unique within this industry in terms of side stabilizer mounts, having titanium screws. So what I did with that one is when I first set it up, which again, I don't have to show every step here, I went with a T30 bit, had it set to 140 inch, and I got it tightened in a little bit initially, even with using something like this. I just kind of hand tightened it. So I put that in there, tightened that a good bit just by hand. And then once I got it lined up, level, I try to get it so it's totally perpendicular to the riser. And once I get that, then I go in here and crank it down, torque it down, get that nice pop at 140 inch. There we go, see, right there, it's already tight. So that part's done. Now these parts, these 2 modules here, are still loose. And that is important because, and you're going to see why that is. So we want to consider a couple things at this point. One is, do you know yet where you're going to ultimately have this set with your bar, with your stabilizer bar? And if you're new to this, you probably don't know that. So I recommend not tightening these joints down yet to 140 inch because of the fact that you may be making adjustments as you're shooting, as you're testing, trying to determine what you like. So what I would say is take a bar, put it in, take a look, get an idea what you think might be reasonable. And then at that point, what I suggest doing is tightening these to about 110 inch-pounds. Tighten those to around 110. And that's going to give you enough tightness that you're going to be able to shoot a bit. It will hold for the practice shots that you're taking. It would probably not be tight enough at that point to withstand a fall if you dropped your bow or something along those lines. But it's certainly going to be tight enough for testing purposes. So get that to the point where it's about 110. I don't even have to really use a torque wrench to get a good feel where that is. I'll do that by, just taking a standard wrench. Now let's talk about this middle module and the screw that's here. Don't forget, that is the left-hand thread screw. So that is reverse thread, opposite thread, whatever you want to call it. It is not standard. So it is going to tighten to the left. It's going to loosen to the right. And this does not show it. Our newer mounts have laser engraving. This is an older version, but the newer mounts have laser engraving up here, and it has an arrow, and it says reverse, and it points to this, so you don't forget. So I'll show you here as we do what would ordinarily be loosening. We're going to the left. We're actually tightening. So that tightened up pretty easily right there. And, if I grab a bar, which I do have some extra bars laying over here, grab one. It doesn't have weights on it, but that's okay. I'll throw a pin on it. And this gives you some perspective on angles. So now this is a really long bar for a sidebar, and don't focus on that. But this gives you the ability then to kind of get an idea laterally where you might want the bar to stop. Don't try to go for totally parallel with the limbs. Assume that you're going to need to swing out horizontally to some degree. I would say, there's no formula. I have no magic number, but I would say can it out a bit, and I'll try to give you an idea what that looks like here in a second. And then we'll go to this bottom joint. We're going to tighten that. Now, this is a standard thread joint on the bottom. So we'll put that T30 bit in there. Tighten that. That's quite a bit. Had quite a bit of looseness on it. All right. So now I tighten to what I believe is probably right around 110, maybe even 120. I have a feel for this from doing it for so long. And I'll turn the bow here so you can see where we're set up at in terms of how parallel to the bow it really is. So it's canted out a little. That is, in some cases, not far enough out for me, but you'll have to determine what's right based on the shooting. That's really what dictates all of this. Shoot it, get a feel for it. Do you like it? Is it offsetting the quiver if it's still on the bow, if you keep your quiver on? Is it offsetting the sight sufficiently? Is it bringing the bow back into alignment quickly enough? Is the level on your sight finding its natural spot as quickly as you need it to be and without manipulation? So these are things to consider, but there's a look at where you could start. It might be a good starting place. So there you go. We're more or less done at this point. Now you would shoot. If you find that you're at the right spot and you're ready to go, then you ramp up to that 140 inch-pound. And then you're going to do that final lockdown. In this case, you'd be going that way, of course, because that is the reverse. So, and then here we'd be going to the right because that is the standard thread. So you would get those two joints finished up. You already have this screwed down to 140 and you're done. And that really does sum it up. If you have problems, if these screws would become overly tight, they certainly can be gotten off. And what I see people doing at times is forgetting that this is reverse threaded. They'll spend time trying to loosen it when in reality they're actually tightening it further. that can exacerbate any kind of seizure that might be going on with the fastener and the aluminum, which can happen at times. And then it gets extraordinarily tight. In instances like that, where it does become too tight for some reason to get off, I suggest you take it off the boat completely. So take it out of the riser and then put it somewhere where it can be held securely and safely, not marring the surfaces. And then you can proceed to loosen. You may even need to add a lever. What I've done in some cases is take the socket wrench like this and add a lever to give myself additional turning force and multiply that force. So that should be about it. Taparchery.com is where we have everything you need to know as far as the products go. Thank you, and appreciate your business.